Year 2125. Mars Strategy. The Mars Strategy. Early attempt at terraforming the planet suffers catastrophic failure. All 4,876 workers on Mars died during the final stages of terraforming. A miscalculation in atmospheric processors made the atmosphere unstable. Suddenly, it could no longer sustain oxygen. None of the Marsian population was wearing their breathing apparatus. A dark day. Source: Sentinel News.org. Upload Mid-Atlantic servers at 7:53 Eastern Standard Time. Authored: Keesley Forrest. Start file. Today is a dark day in the pursuit of human advancement. The history books tend to favor the brave men and women who succeed. The Wright brothers, the John Glenns, the Edwin Pierces distinguished themselves because they were the ones that did it. They made it through. But around the monolith of every achievement are the bodies of those that tried and failed. Today is a dark day, and today we're going to celebrate the brave men and women who laid down their lives in the tragedy that struck Mars at 4:38 Eastern Standard this morning. While the public waits for an official statement regarding what happened, our sources have indicated that a chemical miscalculation in the planetary atmospheric processors have made the new atmosphere unstable. The atmosphere didn't stick, said a government official who asked not to be named. The planet was in the final stages of terraforming. An oxygen-sustaining environment had been in place for the past 2 weeks. The scientific community of the planet were still vetting the system, but we're 2 days away from officially declaring the planet secure. This confidence in the atmosphere meant that none of the crew were wearing the appropriate breathing apparatus. While technically a violation of operating protocol, we are told that there was no indication for the ground crew to assume the atmosphere was anything but stable. Whatever was ultimately responsible happened so fast that no one was able to sound an alarm or seal the ventilations of the various installations around the planet. The tragedy will no doubt rekindle the long-standing arguments about the merits of terraforming. In the president's blog statement this morning, she addressed the possibility of an international committee to investigate how to move forward from this. While I understand that the notion of terraforming stirs emotions both for and against, the 4,876 souls died working to push humanity forward. We need to make sure that whatever decision we come to, we move forward honoring the sacrifice made by the heroes of Mars. End file. Year 2140. First starship. First commercially available starship, the Zeus by Roberts Space Industries, is the first consumer-grade, short-range, 3-passenger explorer, bringing space exploration to the masses. Year 2157. Mars terraformed. Mars successfully terraformed. After almost 40 years of trial and tragedy, Mars is officially classified as an oxygen-sustaining environment, a memorial for those who passed in the great tragedy, Mars tragedy of 2025 is unveiled after official declaration with the Senator Stephen Naijuyan as the keynote speaker. Blue skies on Mars. After almost 40 years of... I kind of read that, so I'm not going to read it. This is the transcript of his speech. My brother Sean loved to build. When we were kids, I was the one who played sports and ran for student congress. He was always tinkering with things. It wasn't weird in our house to suddenly become home to the distro box disassembled. It wasn't weird in our house to suddenly come home to the distro box disassembled and arranged on the living room floor, or Sean crawling around the ventilation shafts because he heard a clicking. There was one time, and I could never prove it, but I think he got to the dog. He was 10, mind you, 10 years old and already that gifted. Maybe gifted was the wrong word, because it wasn't just his talent, it was his curiosity with the absolute joy he got from breaking something apart and seeing how all the pieces mattered. As the years went by, we sort of drifted apart. He was just my weird, nerdy little brother who kept taking apart my stuff. We went to school on opposite sides of the world. He studied engineering and physics, and a surprise to no one, I did my thing. As adults, we would check in from time to time, but I wouldn't say we were particularly close. More like acquaintances than brothers. We were just too different. I liked the Phoenix Five. He thought they were derivative. I thought the new citizenship program was an important way to reward the people who actively want to build a stronger nation. He thought it was elitist, and so it went. Many years ago, when I won my first district seat, Sean showed up to the victory party. I think an aide must have invited him. To be honest, it never occurred to me to even try. Someone on my staff said they saw him in the corner, obviously uncomfortable around the crowd. He didn't even want to talk to me. Just wrote a note and asked someone to give it to me. Here's what it said. Hey Stefan, you looked like you had a lot of people to talk to, so I didn't want to interrupt. But I just wanted to say you're awesome, man. I know we bicker and fight, but it gives me hope that someone who really believes in their convictions is going into government. It's really exciting, and I'm so happy for you. Just remember, no matter what ugliness surrounds you, be brave, be yourself, and you'll be fine. My brother Sean the Destroyer, Sean the Rebuilder. Sean was one of the many lost in the tragedy of 2,125. Since then, I've never been able to hear one of his aggravating rants on politics or one of his ridiculously dull ramblings about allies and stress points. It is a solace that the project that claimed my brother's life has now been completed. This moment, a small consolation compared to the loss of these people, will at least keep their names alive for the rest of humanity to see forever. You know what? Forgive my bluntness, but screw that. I don't want people to look at this memorial and be quiet and introspective. I want the names chiseled into this brick to spark a fire in them. A fire to challenge themselves, to challenge humanity. I want the names on this rock to be a battle cry for all of us, to excel, to burst out of the universe and find our density. So, in the words of my stupid little brother, be brave, everyone. Be yourself, and you will all be fine. Year 2214. Technology breakthrough. New version of the RSI engine released, allowing travel up to 1/10 of the speed of light. More ships exploring our solar system. A march of progress. When RSI announced the next generation of fusion engines, new and exciting prospects for space travel opened up, but not everyone was so enthused. Bailey couldn't believe it. 20 minutes into physics class and the sheet was now getting a new download. Some new engine tech or something that came out today. He'd caught a glimpse of it on the way out the door this morning, but these crappy public school sheets were just getting the textbook update pins now. Mr. Caro already said that we're all going to be quizzed on it, and it's updating now? There's no way. Just no way. This is so stupid. How the hell am I supposed to learn this now? Screw it. I'll bomb it. Screw this class. Screw citizenship. Screw the whole system. I don't need it. Mr. Caro said the quiz would start in 10 minutes. Bailey sunk into his seat and started studying. Year 2232. First colonial flight. Artemis launched first attempt to have a manned spacecraft fly, slow burn to the nearest star system. Captain, crew, and thousands of volunteer colonists all are placed in stasis for the flight. Ultimately, the ship disappears. The first push. The Artemis was the manifestation of a dream. When the announcement came that a vessel was being constructed for a push to the nearest potentially habitable planet, the public flipped. Alien worlds and first contact was no longer the province of sci-fi. It was becoming a transnationalizing reality. The ship would be fitted with stasis couches known as boots, terraforming equipment and supplies, and an AI core at the helm. Maximum capacity 5,000. A call went out for volunteers. No one downplayed the risks, of which there were many. On a slow burn with the latest engines, the Artemis would take over 200 years to reach its destination. A lot can happen in that time. Regardless, there were over 1 million volunteers. Committees filtered the list down, trying to balance the best combination of skills, trades, and disciplines. The following are experts from the chariot to the stars, the official companion piece to the launch. Price to the launch, based on the compiled flight logs, personal journals, and witness accounts of the Artemis and its launch. Timestamp launch, 14 hours, 38 minutes, 13 seconds. On the eve of the Artemis launch, Captain Liza Danvers was checking circuit boards underneath the comm station on the bridge for the third time. Our author, Ken Lowe, engineer, sat on the arm of the captain's chair. He'd given up trying to figure out what she was looking for. Lisa always had an issue with big ships. Sure, she'd flown transports before, but this was different. There were 1,000 things that could go wrong, which could, in turn, affect 1 million functions. It was maddening, and she probably screwed herself by even starting down this path. "Are you sure I can't assist you, Captain?" a disembodied voice said, murmuring from dozens of hidden speakers throughout the ship. It was the AI, helpful as always. "No, I'm okay," she said. Ken Lowe mouthed along the words of what was clearly a familiar exchange. Lisa couldn't see anything wrong, out of place, or suspect in the myriad of circuit boards. She hated pre-flight anxiety. No matter what she did, it always hit her bad. So she made an executive decision. She cut herself off and replaced the panel. Ken Lowe perked up. "You good?" "Yeah, I think so." "Hey, Janice?" "Yes, Captain." Yes, Captain. The disembodied voice replied. "Generate another set of contingency actions for the status boots. Do you have any specific parameters?" "No. Use your imagination." "That is a concept of which I only have an external understanding. Outside the box. Something that we haven't thought of." "I will try, Captain." That night, Janice, the AI core, tried to imagine. Timestamp, 4 minutes, 41 seconds. The next morning, the world waited. The volunteer population was waiting on the orbital platform. The engineers felt it would be easier that way, save themselves the trouble of having to build launch seating for 5,000 if they didn't have to. So they had been ferried up there in groups over the past few weeks. Today was the launch of the Artemis itself. Danvers and her core crew would take her up, then dock with the platform to pick up the civilians and any last-minute supplies. News orgs from around the world were gathered, ready to capture the moment in every conceivable format and put it on anything with a screen. Lisa was already strapped in, the nerves and jitters of the past few days melting away with each passing moment. She stared at the main projection screen, displaying the front view of the ship. Right now, it was just sealed launch tube. She thought about what lay beyond it, the sky that she loved. It was waiting for her to come back. Danvers glided through her pre-flight checks. She was thorough and professional, but couldn't get through them fast enough. Crew departments checked in. It was green across the board. A final check with flight control. They were set. It was time. Klaxons outside the ship began beeping. The massive metal gates of the flight tube unlocked with heavy thuds. Captain Danvers, shall I assume launch control? Janice said. No, I got it. Are you sure, Captain? I'm sure. The gates started to move. But Captain, I have a 0.002 error quotient to just show me that sky. I'll get us there. Timestamp launch 9 days, 5 hours, 12 minutes, 57 seconds. Janice assumed control of Circle for a week once the crew and civilians had entered stasis to check for any errors or anomalies. Effectively a dry run of how the ship would run once it started its push. If there were any problems, flight control could abort and even remotely pilot the Artemis back if need be. Flight control finished a final assessment of the checks. Everything looked good. Justin Cobb, the mission director, looked over the bays of technicians, scientists, and analysts. Everyone good? Everyone nodded. This is our last chance. If anyone's got the slightest hesitation or concern, I don't care how it'll sound or how the people upstairs will flip, you better voice it. Silent, Cobb gave it a few moments, then nodded to establish contact with the Artemis. Good afternoon. How are you, Janice? I have been running simulations. Contingency scenarios. Example include random power and fluctuation, impact with foreign body, contact with new uncategorized gas or element, contact with hostile organisms, etc. Any conclusions? I think will be satisfactory. Cobb glanced at the nearest tech, slightly confused by the AI's language. You think? I imagine we will be fine, Mr. Cobb. 22 minutes later, the Artemis blast thrusters starting a full burn for a scheduled 75 minutes. It passed the edge of our solar system into the great sea of space beyond, into that silent black that surrounds us. And so we wait, dreaming of the things that they will find, hoping that one day we will hear back from the brave men and women who boarded the Artemis, that chariot to the stars, and struck out as the first ambassadors of the this united Earth.